Hello everyone, I am Neyah for those of you who are new, and happy Halloween since this is Halloween season, or Samhain actually, which is literally my favorite season, or one of my favorite seasons of all year. But for those who are watching this video even after Halloween, well, welcome again. My name is Neyah, and since in my membership program from next week I'm gonna start uploading some energy work and spell work, I wanted to make this video public where we talk about all that you need in order to be a witch or starting in your witchcraft spells and energies work. Basically pretty much like a beginner witch kit, but honestly I use this sort of items throughout my witchcraft experience, so it's beginner and advanced I guess at the same time. If you guys are interested to know what items or what things you should use if you want to start working with magic, witchcraft and energy works, please just keep on watching. Before I get started, obviously I just want to say that in this week, for those of you guys who are watching the video by the time that I'm posting it, the zodiac predictions are up on my membership program. And from next week, like I said, I'm gonna start teaching you some spell work, so please join the membership if you want to have extra content from me, which includes law of attractions, more messages and pico cards, and everything that I upload on my membership. And thank you so much for those who are already part of this beautiful sparkle community, like I like to call you guys. So before I get started also, I just wanted to say that I do not teach and either practice black magic or things that are related to demons or lower entities. The type of witchcraft that I practice is very similar to the law of attraction, and in fact it is more called energy work. I learned all of this through my mother, who taught me, like I said in my other videos, since I come from a country, which is Italy, where witchcraft is still practiced today and has a long history. Now obviously all the items that I'm going to show are not mandatory, but this is only my version. You guys can choose whatever practice you prefer and only choose what truly resonates with you. These videos are done for entertainment and just to guide you and giving you some tips and tricks on what I use, since also you guys have requested this. And I wanted to make this video public, not only for the members, because maybe you guys want to be part of the membership too, or especially I thought before I even start teaching some of the spells that I know, it's very important that people actually have the right items with them, because otherwise how are they gonna do? And if you want to know more about the law of attraction and witchcraft, please watch my video entitled Law of Attraction VC Witchcraft, because in there I explain how, due to the several hermetic principles, as above so below, so within so without, they're pretty much the same thing, and the law of attraction is one single little part of energy works and what is well known as witchcraft. And witchcraft is not necessarily related to bad things or demonic stuff or against God or bringing bad things to people. Like, this is not what I believe in. It's not what I practice. Actually, I practice communion with Mother Nature, with the angels, and always working for your highest self and the highest self of all. So now that this disclaimer is out of the way, let's talk to the beginner kit witch, what I will suggest you guys to buy or to have in your house. And now obviously I'm going to show a lot of items. You do not necessarily have to add them all together, but take them as a guidance, because this is what I personally use when I'm using my energy work or my spells. Let's start with the first item, which is not an item actually, is a being, is a living creature. My cat. I know this sounds so funny because it's like, oh, you're using your cat for energy works? Of course I do. Which is since an old age, I'm sorry, my baby, he's a newbie by the way, they are using familiars. And if you want to know more about spirit animals and pets, please watch my video entitled Pets, what are their purpose? And I always have lived since a young child with an animal in my house, and I have been taught that animals do protect us a lot. And for example, they absorb some of the bad karma or the bad things that people might send to us. They especially cats, for example, but to be honest, also other animals. They are they're very in tune with the energies. They can walk the circles and when you're doing spells, and they will protect your space. And my cat really hates to be on camera, by the way, probably because he can feel that some people sense negative energy sometimes. But honestly, working with an animals when it comes down to energy work is really amazing. Now, another disclaimer is these videos again are done for entertainment. Taking on animals is a really strong responsibility, and it doesn't have to be done because you want to be a witch or you want a familiar. And actually in my membership, I will explain to you guys what happened to my Chihuahua and all that story, because and actually guys, if you can, obviously go to shelters and save animals or wait for animals to come into your life naturally. And again, I can make a dedicated video about it. Now, buying an animals from a breeder is not necessarily and inherently wrong, as long as they are responsible and they actually do care about that particular breed that you want to have with you. And obviously, also from my personal experience, I really do not suggest any pet shop or to not take an animal out of like an irresponsible emotional act. Just please don't do it. I will probably do a different video about it if you guys are interested, especially on my membership, so comment down below. But there is no shadow of a doubt that there is a reason why witches since ages have been using animals as familiars and as guardians of their home, because their power and the fact that they can see energies and they can protect you is real, and I highly believe in that. So if you already have an animals and a familiar, please comment down below. I would love to know. Personally, my cats that I had, I never bought them. I always found them. Like Anubi is the son of my old cat Cleopatra that unfortunately passed away, but she was like a garden cat, and since I always lived around nature and garden, I always was very, very lucky to find animals around me, and I adopted them. So that's how it is. And then I'm going to explain again what happened to my dog, unfortunately. Now, with that being said, so this will be the first thing that I will suggest you to have, or if you already have, to work with your animals and to respect them. Now, the second tool that I obviously would advise any beginner witch to have is candles. Candles are extremely important when it comes down to energy work, and obviously if you are not afraid to working with fire, candles are perfect for doing spells, and especially the colors are related to a specific thing that you want to attract. Very easy to use usually for people. And what I will suggest you to buy, since you cannot possibly, especially if you guys are on a budget, you probably don't have the money to buy like each and every like 10 candles that are blue or 10 candles that are white. I completely understand it, and in my opinion that's a very old way to practice witchcraft, with all of this, you know, candles and all of this waste. Like for example, if you just lit one candle is more than enough usually for spells. So what I personally do, I bought these really cute things on Amazon. It was like not very expensive, called magic spell candles. They are super pretty, and there are the caution also instruction that you guys must read before you apply them, before you use them. And I love this kit because honestly it has, and by the way, obviously I'm not being sponsored, I don't even know the brand, but these magic spells, like they have little candles of all colors that I might need for various spells. And I love the fact that they're small, because in the witchcraft that I do practice, in the magic work that I practice, I usually consume all the candle at once, and then I discard the remains in a particular ritual and in a particular way. So obviously not having like a gigantic candle like this one or even bigger is a lot easier, because this consumes in a couple of hours, like not even an hour. So that is my suggestion, if especially you are a beginner witch, to have the magic spell candles or something similar, like small candles with white, orange, purple, green, pink, you know, things that you might use on a daily basis or for, you know, basic spells. Now, also another thing that which will be the third item that I will suggest you to have before buying anything else, will be actually a book. what book, you can watch my video entitled what book do I suggest, but obviously like having a book such as the Witch's Bible. Now this is the complete witch's handbook. It's found like I think in every shop. I personally found in Burley in England, which is a village dedicated to witchcraft. But I feel that even though you do not have to apply everything that is written in the book, having some culture about where witchcraft began, what Wicca is especially, or whatever other books that you might find that you resonate with, that give you a little bit, you know, of like background on what you were practicing, I think is very important. For example, in this book, I really loved it. I bought it years and years ago. There, over here, we have the Sabbats, Casting and Banishing the Magic Circle, the Complete Book of Shadows, the Great Rite, Initiation Spells, Witch's Tool, Running a Coven, Clairvoyance, Astral Projection. Like, if you have a book that resume, even briefly, so many things that you probably are curious about, and also with pictures from the 70s, which I love and adore. By the way, let me know, guys, if you want to have a video where I do like the best horror movies from the 70s about witchcraft. I swear. Like, my band is called Psychedelic Witchcraft, is a rock band, and I love horror movies. But anyway, little parenthesis, if you have a book that teaches you a bit of stuff apart from watching videos, in my opinion, is always better, and you're obviously gonna have like a really good culture about what you're practicing. Now again, you can watch my video, you can have something more easier, such as the Magic Cauldron from Silver Ravenwald. There are so many. You can read the books of Scott Cunningham, you can read the books of Gerald Gardner. Like, this is completely up to you if you want to follow Wicca and the Reddit, or you want to follow some other parts of the witchcraft tradition. The only thing that I obviously do not suggest is to read Aleister Crowley or the Goetia or everything that is related to Hebrew demonic entities. Like, I personally have read Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn and what they practice, but I do not like it. So I obviously, because I do not resonate with it, I do not suggest it. But everything else that is done in harmony with nature, with the angels, and with your higher self, go ahead and buy those books and make a culture, because I think that reading first and then buying these items is much more important. So now for the item number 4, what I will suggest you to have before you practice anything, since the candles for me are the number one thing, it's obviously, if you can, that will be amazing, to buy some statue of a divinity or something that you resonate with. So for example, I always have resonated with ancient Egyptian divinities and gods and goddesses such as Isis, Oset, Ma'at. I also have other deities, and remember that magic is practices everywhere in the world, and at the same time it's an act of energy work and of prayer to the gods. Like, even in Hinduism, we do have pujas, which literally are rituals dedicated to the gods, and those are energy works, even though they might not be considered as witchcraft, because witchcraft comes from the European tradition, for what, if I'm concerned, if I am correct. But pujas are indeed rituals where you are burning things and you are praying to the gods. But they're like, we have the Santeria in South America, we have the Wicca or the Celts and the Druids tradition. Like, I mean, each and every one of these traditions that includes the ritualistic part where you are burning something, you're lighting candles, you're devoting yourself to a divinity, you are worshipped by divinity, and you're asking for something in return, is a form of energy work that can be kind of like witchcraft. Now, obviously, in the more modern term, you can use a pantheon of gods that it's like up to your preference. Some people just use the planets like Mercury, Venus, Uranus, so on and so forth. I use that myself. Some other people use more ancient Egyptian goddesses, especially to represent the divine mother, with Isis, for example, or with Oset, the justice goddess. Or some other people actually use just the elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and the universe and the pentacles, or the pentagram. Some other people prefer to use gods that come from all over and other tradition. you can use whatever statue you want. This is up to you, or you can even use the tarot sometimes as an altar. What I feel it's more important is to pray God and your higher self and the angels and higher energies. And what I think is important is that you know the divinity that you're worshiping. Like if you are choosing the ancient Egyptian pantheon, that is perfect, but read about it and be cultured about it. Try not to do cultural appropriation in that sense. Try to always give credit where it's due, and try again to read and to know what are the energies that you are worshiping or that you're asking favors from. It's very, very important in my opinion. So I do use a lot of ancient Egyptian one, like Ozet, Ma'at. Ozet is the actual original name of the goddess, Osiris, and Bastet and Sekhmet as well. So for the fifth item that it will be necessary for a beginner witch or for anybody who practices this energy work, I will definitely say that sage is very, very important. And if you do not like sage, because apparently there are like discussion about whether sage or how you should sage your home, I personally don't know what's going on Reddit or things like that. I always have used sage because this is something that in Italy especially we have been doing for like so long. Like it's just what we do. It's, I think even priests in the Christian church, they use sage, or they use, yeah, I think they actually do use sage to cleanse their space. And also, if you do not like, you do not find yourself good with sage to clean your space before any energy work, you could use olive oil. That's something that we do a lot. So for example, we put olive oil near our doors or our windows in order to protect from evil eye and things like that. That's something that you can do too. Or for example, you can use incense. Now incense could be of any type, but like what I feel works the best to clean the energy is the dragon blood, in my opinion. Especially if you feel that there is like heavy negativity in your house, I think dragon blood really works. But you can use any type of incense and somewhere where you can lit it, and obviously that will be as good as sage in my opinion, because remember, we are the creator of our own reality, and it's really about the intentions that you're putting before an energy work. But definitely as a beginner witch, I think that sage is the most popular thing that you can use to clean your space before the spells. And also what you could use, this was given to me by else.SD that you can find on Instagram. She's my fellow witch and fellow psychic friend, and this is the Florida water. I know that this water is really found in the United States. I personally never found it over here, but or anywhere else I've been in the world. Like I don't use it a lot, but they do say that this one is perfect when you have to clean yourself before any spells or energy work. So that's something that you could choose. I will choose either Florida water or sage or any type of incense that you like, or olive oil. I think especially if you do treatments for your hair and for your skin, you might just as well use olive oil for everything and you don't waste a lot of things. But definitely sage, number one beginner kit thing. So number 6 item that you should have as a beginner witch, well, how can we forget to have crystals? I mean, crystals are so fundamental that I even dedicated an entire video about crystals in and of itself, what they are and how they work. Crystals are so important, whether it is because you are wearing them and after an energy work you have consecrated them and you're using them to attract something. Using crystals is very powerful, and having a bit of a collection of crystals during the years I think is important. I don't think, unless you're super passionate about it, that you have to have like a gigantic collection of crystals, but a few will be really good. Like green aventurine, for instance, the raw amethyst. And mind you that if you can buy and purchase the raw crystals, is so much better than purchasing the ones that are even like this. They are already, you know, refined and worked, because in my opinion they're much more powerful. But watch my video dedicated to crystals to know more about that. So for example, amethyst, rose quartz, green aventurine, cornelian is another crystals that I use, and a fundamental crystals in my opinion in every witch home is black tourmaline, because black tourmaline is perfect when it comes down to absorb negative energy and to be prepared correctly when you're doing a spell. And it has fantastic properties as well. My favorite crystals is amethyst, and is the one that I use the most, along with also lapis lazuli. Now, for the 7th element that you should use if you are a witch beginner kit is obviously the Book of Shadow. The Book of Shadow, I think, is one of these things that should be probably first in the list. So this list is not a list of priorities, just what I personally use and what I advise you guys to use. I had this Book of Shadows that was given to me by my best friend since I was, I guess, 14 or 16. It's almost over, and I know that there are so many witches probably on TikTok or on YouTube that they have like this super aesthetic, like pleasing looking Book of Shadows. I'm not one of those witches. I just literally have a journal, and it's close to my heart because my best friend gave it to me. And what I did in my Book of Shadow, and I can make a separate video about it, before I even wrote down any spells or any of my practices, what I did, I dedicated the book to the Mother Goddess and Mother Father God and the elements and the guardian angels. Therefore the archangels. I did this because I wanted my book to be away from any negative and always being with me and never to be lost. And in fact, I never lose it, and never one page got probably ripped. So I am really, really lucky that I put this spell prayer on top of the book before even starting writing anything else. And in your Book of Shadows, you can literally put anything that you like. Like I said, if you have a book of spells already, like one of the books that I showed you before, it's not that every spell that you read you have to write in the Book of Shadow. What I personally did, I only write the ones that are accurate, that actually came true. I even write down, for example, like tarot reading that I did, and to confirm and see whether or not in the years they actually came true. So when I will pass this Book of Shadow to someone, I will actually know that each and every individual spell, and they are not a lot as you guys can see, but each and every individual spell that I wrote down actually works and actually did change my life in a way or another. Or you can even write like a diary, anything that you want. You could use it as a manifestation book, as a scrying book. I literally wrote everything that is dear to my heart when it comes down to energy works and this sort of practices, including tarot readings or like beware of things or things that didn't work out that people shouldn't use, like the Ouija board. I have a dedicated video where I talk about my haunted experience and Ouija boards, and I even put some of my powders, like witchy powders over here for the love spells that I have over here, you know, stuff like that. I think having a journal, it's fundamental, whether you're working with the law of attraction or more with spells. The Book of Shadows or a journal is fundamental in a witch kit. All right. So other things that you will need, now obviously now we're getting more into the details, because these are things that you don't necessarily need as a beginner, but you could add along the way. So along the way, what I feel that you could add is, well, probably also like candle holder, especially if you're working with bigger candles. Like I love felines and the energy of the lion, which is my spirit animal. So obviously I always use lionesses as holding candles, and Sekhmet and Bast as gods and goddesses. Then you can use like holding candles like this. If you're using more smaller candles, as you can see, this is super pretty. They gave it to me for my marriage, and it's an Indian one. So anything that you can place and hold candles will be very, very important. Then other tools that you can have for your spells are like a bell. Working with bells is super important, especially, and I have to talk on my membership how I use bells, but it's very important when it comes down to connecting with the elements to call in the cardinal points when you are drawing this circle, because every cardinal points can have a certain resonance with a sound, and so you could go west, east, north, and south, and on each individual cardinal point ring the bell, and this will call them in. Now obviously this is a very specific thing to have. Not everybody and not every witch has a bell, and so I do, and that's why I share it with you guys. Another thing that I use a lot, especially because it was very used in ancient Egyptian practices, which I love and adore, it's papyrus. Now I do have original papyrus coming from Egypt, but also if you cannot afford it, or you know, you don't want it, like something like this where you can write your spells, it's very important, like a piece of paper that looks like papyrus or something like that. Why these things are important? Are important because many of the spells that I do practice, I love to journal and to write down things. I feel is one of the most powerful things when it comes down to energy work. So for example, if you have watched some of my older spells, you probably already know this. What I do is I write down the spell, I pray, I recite it, and then I burn it, or I melt it in water, or whatever it is, the practice that I'm doing. So obviously having a lot of this will be very, very handful. They don't have to be exactly this or exactly this big, but I find them extremely handful when it comes down to practice witchcraft on a day-to-day basis. I got mine, this one particularly on Amazon, and this is called the vintage paper. And obviously I also have, like I said, the ancient Egyptian papyrus, but this one are perfect for daily spells in my opinion. And obviously not being sponsored. All right, another thing that you probably need to have at some point in your witchy adventure, it's a jar. Like I show this jar in many of my spells, but I think in particularly in my love spells, jars are so useful, whether it is that you have to put oil inside, wine, water, whatever it is, or fire even, or smoke. Jars are tremendously important when you're doing energy works of witchcraft type, and so that's something that you should think about having. I don't think they necessarily, this is a glass one, I don't think they have to necessarily be that expensive. I got this one from IKEA. Now, another thing that you probably need to have as a beginner witch or along the way while you're practicing witchcraft is herbs. Herbs are fundamentally important, especially when you're working with the elements, like from lavender to this one, which I don't know how is it called in English, I'm so sorry. Then you can have like cinnamon, you can have ginger, or like an actual ginger, and obviously usually I have another jar where I put them all inside. And this tool that I use for my potions or whatever it is that I am doing, and this is very practical. Now, when it comes down to the items of witchcraft, mind you guys, try not to use things that you use on a day-to-day basis when it comes down to cooking, for example. I have my witchcraft tool and I only use them for witchcraft. Now, many witches do use the athame as a wand, which is the knife. Now, I love athames, but unfortunately during my years I used to own only one, and it is in one of my ex-boyfriend's house, and he never returned it back. And from that moment on, I didn't have another one yet because I don't even use it that much. But the athame is actually quite important when it comes down to do the circle. So if that is something that you want to have, probably explore and try to see if you find one. Now, to draw the circle, what I do, I use herbs, cinnamon, or especially salt. So I don't even use the wands anymore, but I only use this tool for witchcraft practices. I do not use them, like I don't use this one for cooking. This is only for whatever I'm doing with the herbs. So I think it's very important not to mix the two things if you can. Also, another thing that I was almost forgetting to tell you guys when I talked about the herbs that you guys need, probably you should also need to buy or have in your house some essential oils. Essential oils are amazing to work with when it comes down to the spells. Now, obviously, when it comes down to essential oils, check with your doctors if you are allergic first. Do not drink them or do anything as such. These are very, very powerful things. Even when you go to an esthetician's, like, they are absolutely careful to use essential oils, and they should always be used, in my opinion, diluted with another oil such as coconut oil, olive oil, or things as such. Do not use them pure. At least I don't suggest them, and check if you're allergic or not. Very, very fundamentally important. But if you can have a set of essential oils, I think that will help you out in your energy works as well. All right, now another very peculiar thing that not a lot of witches actually have, at least I didn't see them a lot on YouTube, it's copper pyramid. Copper pyramids are so freaking cool, you guys. So like, actually there are even version of the copper pyramids that are gigantic, so you can actually go inside and purify your energy. I do not have obviously a gigantic copper pyramid, but along the way, this is not a beginner thing, but along the way, if you can grab one of these, I think will be so important. Why using copper pyramids? Because the shape and the copper in and of itself allow you to clean things. So for example, or to energize them. So for example, you have bought a crystal that you really like, you can cleanse them and put them in water and salt, but then you need to energize them back. Now amethyst is something that you do not need to energize all the time, but let's say for instance that you have an amulet that you need to energize and you need to clarify in terms of energy. What I will do, I will spend a night, the amulet will spend a night under the copper pyramid, and the copper will actually help raise the vibration of whatever it is that I'm putting underneath the copper pyramid. You can even re-energize and re-cleanse the tarot or any divination tool, and this works like wonders. So for example, from a reading to another, if I put the tarot under the copper pyramid, I know for sure that the energy is cleansed and re-energized, so I can use it back with safety measurements, and you know, it has a different feeling. Now I do understand there's a whole science behind this. I can do a separate video on my membership, or a separate video public if there is a lot of requests. But obviously this is not necessarily like a beginner thing, but it's something that completely changed and the way I practice, and has helped me out re-energize things super fastly, because you just have to place them under the pyramid. And mine is super pretty because it has also an amulet inside that is made in copper, and obviously double the energy, because this amulet is like a mandala with the I think this is the flower of life. So it's really cool, honestly, and in my opinion it really works out. Now other things that you should have as a beginner witch are, well, before I talk about divination tool, probably a lot of this, like piece of fabrics. Why? Now this is one that I used for my prosperity spell. The piece of fabrics are really important because sometimes I use them to put the crystals inside. I bury them in the ground. There are a lot of energy works that you can do with the piece of fabric, and also, so piece of fabric of many colors, and also if you can, some shoelaces of many color or laces of any kind, because there is an entire like sector, can you say, an entire frame of witchcraft that is basically done only with laces. So that's something that you should definitely look into it. Now last but not least, the things that you must have as a beginner witch or even as an advanced witch: divination tools. Divination tools can vary from the Ouija board to the scrying method and the crystal ball to tarot to the pendulum and so much more. You can even use divination tool with water, and I made an entire video dedicated on scrying where I show you some of these techniques. Personally, you guys know me so well, at this point I do use tarot a lot. More than the pendulum, more than the Ouija board, more than anything else. Tarot, since a young age, they always have been my favorite divination tool, and the ones where I always get accurate answer. Another divination tool that I love and adore is the I Ching, that I have a dedicated video about, message from the I Ching. So if you're interested on the I Ching, you can check that out. And if you're interested about knowing tarot and how to read them for yourself and others, I have a dedicated course down below called You Are the Oracle, and as well as a free video called Learn Tarot in 30 Minutes, which I am sure will set you to the right path to learn tarot professionally or also for yourself. And I also teach in the course how to manifest with tarot. That's how much I love them. So these are all the beginner tools, and more than beginner things that I suggest if you are a witch, or to be honest, these are the things that I personally use and you will see me using during the membership program that you have to join if you want to be part of it, where I will teach you energy works and spells. So also, by the way, rewind. Other things that you might need, for example, for doing spells, comfortable clothes, because the way I teach this sort of witchcraft is always very pure and is very connected to higher energy. So I had a really good question from one of my followers that asked me, but what should I wear when I'm practicing the spells? I always suggest to take a bath, clean yourself, be absolutely clean before doing any spell. And so for example, if you find some clothes that are white, super soft, like even a cozy white pajama, something that you are just tremendously comfortable with, that has bright colors, especially if it's white, that will be absolutely perfect to do many energy works. I suggest wearing black like I'm doing today if you want to do energy works to protect your house, protect yourself, or remove evil eye. Why? Because black absorbs all colors and absorbs all energy. Black is also used, unfortunately, for dark practices, but again, that's not what I teach. And that's not what I show, because I don't even feel I'm a teacher. I'm more like, hey, this is what I do. You're my friends. Like, come and see it, you know, that kind of thing. Remember, everything that I explain, it's not mandatory. You can use the law of attraction however you want. You can use witchcraft however you want. This is my tradition. This is what I know, and I'm just here sharing it. I'm not a spiritual teacher, and again, not a teacher of some sort. Like I said, I'm just here to say, hey, you're my friends. Hear me out on this one. And that's all. Please comment down below to show me your stories. What do you use? If you want to join the membership, if you already did, and what you want to see more on this channel. To know more about law of attraction, witchcraft, the energy works, pico cards, and tarot, subscribe to this channel, and keep in mind, you're never wrong if you follow love. And thank you so much for being here with me today. Bye!